I'm done with color grading on YouTube, at least for a little bit, or maybe completely entirely, I'm not actually sure. But I wanted to explain why, since a lot of you probably subscribed because you like the tutorials that I do on color grading and you subscribe that way. But I hope you will stick around for what's next and maybe listen to me explain it in this video, hopefully without being too long. I'm gonna try and keep it as short as possible. But if you rewind about 2 years, that's when I decided to make the switch from photography into videography. This was about 6 months into my journey as a full-time traveler and full-time creative. I just left everything in Denmark and headed out in the world, and I thought I could make it work with photography, which is what I knew. Realized that for me personally, I had to switch to videography. Thought it was gonna be easy. It turned out it was not. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, because making the switch from photography to videography for most of us is more difficult than it seems just straight out of the box. But what I quickly found after watching endless amount of YouTube videos and trying to figure out how to expose my camera and how to make everything work, how to make it look good, looking up to other creators that had similar cameras to mine, I'm shooting on the Canon R6 right now, I just couldn't make it work. And I realized that it was because of color grading. So naturally, I started watching a lot of videos on color grading on YouTube, and I found 2 main problems. The first one was that it was way above my level. Most of what was there already, from the professional colorists that have amazing channels here on YouTube. Nothing bad against them, but a lot of the videos just jumped straight into a technical topic, whereas I was super beginner, so I didn't understand any of what was being talked about. And when I tried implementing some of the techniques, just didn't understand anything at all. And secondly, it usually just skipped into a point of which the technique was going to be explained, but without explaining a lot of the context behind it. And it was difficult for me to find the videos explaining those topics because I didn't know what to search for, because I was new in color grading, and it didn't seem like those channels had those videos, at least at that time. So that was kind of my whole entry into color grading, but I kept going because I really wanted to make it work. And I slowly started getting better at color grading. I watched all those videos that was more technical, slowly started to getting a feeling of it. And I posted reels every day to practice my color grading, and that suddenly took off, and I was realizing, oh, maybe I'm becoming just a little bit better at it, and maybe I can start closing that gap of beginners that doesn't know anything and kind of cover the basics in a more simple way that can help people transition into those more complicated videos later on. So that was kind of my whole starting point into YouTube, wanting to take that more serious, didn't know what to do, and then I kind of just started teaching color grading from that and rolled into that. But I never wanted to become a colorist. I never wanted to initially even teach on YouTube, which I later on found out is kind of another passion of mine. But going through that, I just kind of continued, and I feel like I managed to somewhat close that gap. Some people tend to disagree and say that I do things wrong, and a lot of people have found these videos very useful. And truth of the matter is, I was just fumbling around myself, found my way through it, and tried to simplify things. That was kind of the whole basis of what I've been doing on YouTube up until now. But then I kind of got stuck. And I got stuck with the fact that now I was in this color grading niche. I also started making some money from it, because leaving my job in Denmark and traveling full time costs money, and I didn't have an income. I only lived off my savings in the beginning, and those I kind of burned through before I even made it to videography and color grading. So I started selling my own LUTs, which initially paid for DaVinci Resolve Studio, so I could make that transition, which was amazing. And then I created a course which was about filmmaking and all the basics of that. But realizing that was a bit too broad, I kind of re-transformed it later into color grading, and that I will continue doing, even though I will not be teaching as much on YouTube anymore. I continue to grow that as a way of simplifying how color grading is done and understood, and not necessarily done, but how it's understood, how it's learned, and teaching that and expanding my lessons on there, because that's been quite a difficult balance to find as well, of like, what do I make a lesson about and what do I put on YouTube, and do I put it all on YouTube, or do I just put it in the course, and the course is more comprehensive, but some of the newer videos that I've made here on YouTube is not in the course. So it's been a struggle to find that balance as well. So I'll put more of my focus in color grading into the course to continue making that better. And then it's time to find another direction here on YouTube, because what I initially just wanted to do when I started switching into videography and just with this whole creative journey in the whole, which was first of all just tell stories. I wanted to tell my stories, but I also wanted to script stories and just help brands grow with the stories that I could tell, with my perspective, with those things, just kind of like the, I guess, modern, I want to be a travel filmmaker kind of vibes. Travel photographer for that matter is what it started as, but I didn't really know how to get there, and I didn't know how to find the help, and I couldn't afford any of the courses that I found out there. So I've just been fumbling around through it all, and I've learned more and more through all those steps and figuring out everything along the way, that now it's kind of time to take the next step before I fully get stuck into color grading and fully get stuck into just doing this for a living, because I don't want to become a colorist. And while some jobs slowly rolling in with that, it's not a path that I want to pursue fully. I want to create films and I want to tell stories just like a lot of you are watching wants to do as well, and using my channel as a means to learn the color grading part. Now I want to pursue the next part for me as well. And that's why my uploading schedule has been a little bit off, and that's why the last few videos hasn't performed that well. That's for my own personal thing, but they also been within topics that were not my usual color grading topics. And that's why I kind of felt like this video will be that stepping stone towards transitioning into this next chapter. And I don't fully know what that chapter looks like yet. I just know that while we're here in New Zealand for the next year, I want to expand into that storytelling. And while we're on the road in a van in a couple of months, hopefully, I can share more stories and script and have fun with that, rather than just sitting in a van and color grading. So the next few months is probably going to be a little bit messy of me finding my footing in all of this and figuring out how to do it my way, because I don't just want to be everyone else and do gear reviews and do tutorials, and there will be some of that as I'm experimenting as well, but I want to find my style and my way of doing it. So I kind of feel like I'm starting over, even though I'm closing in on 20,000 subscribers. So I'm super scared to hit the reset button now, and that a lot of people will leave the channel, and yeah, all those worries that comes with what you've built and then kind of pursuing a different path or doing something different. But matter of fact is just that if I keep continuing down the path, I know that won't make me happy long term. So I think it's better to separate the two and then do color grading in the course and focus more on making that better, and then pursuing what I actually always really wanted to do on YouTube, and that is tell stories and still teach, but whatever that format is going to be, develop into that and let myself experiment and try that. And even though the views will be low and things will feel like it's failing, that's kind of just the process of getting there, I think. So yeah, that was a lot of me just talking, but that was what this video is going to be for those caring about what's going on right now, and kind of also just transitioning into this next chapter. Maybe you can relate to taking a big step away from something, whether that's going full-time into something creative, or whether that's your job that you already have, that you're going to change something, or taking a new job on. Or I think this applies to a lot of things in life in general. But just like I took the step away from IT that I worked in before and into the creative endeavor, I also allow myself now to change the path onto the path that I actually wanted to be on, now that I am closer to having all the skills together to actually tell the stories and make the films that I wanted to make. And I still have a ton to learn, and that's also the part of what I'm going to bring you through. I want to do more brand work. Definitely, I want to get my videos sponsored at some point, but to get those sponsorships, I also need to change it into that format that actually makes sense for those brands to sponsor these videos. So I'm going to try and take you with me through all of that and see where we can get to. And if you have any suggestions, comments, feedback, critiques on this or on the coming videos, feel free to leave them, because that's how I can grow as well. Just keep a good tone, of course, but that's how I learn, and that's how I figure out, like, what do you guys want? What can I provide that maybe others didn't, or my perspective of things, or whatever it might be. So that's the update from here. I'll stop rambling now because we'll probably continue for an hour. And with that said, I just hope that you will, whoever's watching this video, will join me on this next chapter, and I'll continue teaching and doing my best to bring you along and share everything that's going on along the way. And I'm super excited for it. I know it feels a little bit sad and scary to say this, all of this in a video, but it also kind of puts things into place and into determination that now it has to happen because I said it. And that said, I can always change things later again, but I'm not going back to color grading. I'm going to whatever is next, and I'm super excited for it. So I hope you will tag along, stick with me through this. Leave a comment below if you are gonna do that. I always love reading that, and it's gonna give some encouragement as well. And other than that, just hope to see you in the next video, whatever that's gonna be. Thanks for watching. Until then, take care.